All right, man, peace. You know, brothers, in order for us to truly be able to understand and ascertain and affirm exactly what's going on around us at all times, it takes one main attribute initially, and that's stillness. In order for you to grasp everything that's going on around you, you have to be still. You have to be calm, and you have to be able to quiet your mind, because that's the only way that you're going to be able to hear everything that's being said and understand why it's being said. That's when you'll be able to finally elevate your level of understanding to a three-dimensional level of understanding. But it takes time. You cannot just assume that everything that people say, what they do, and how events transpire are going to be understood by you if you've never been trained. And the first thing that we must do is train ourselves. We have to acknowledge that we don't know something in order to start the pathway to learning. It's like the film Karate Kid. When Mr. Miyagi first started to instruct Daniel LaRusso in the martial arts, at first, Danielson had no idea what he was being trained to do. Because it was very important that he learn the mechanics of all of the moves. And Miyagi was instructing him in a very non-conventional or unconventional way. And it took him a while to grasp what exactly he was learning. In the same way, in order for us to be able to truly perceive why things are how they are, it takes time, it takes patience. I'm saying all of this because Mr. Kyrie Irving recently made a declaration that to those of us with a three-dimensional level of understanding, we've already known what's the truth. That being that all of these prominent athletes in the NBA or the NFL have the clout to start their own sports leagues. Now that's a process. It's not going to happen in a year or even 2 years. But if they were to start commiserating, if they were to start conspiring together, they could do it and they could be a success, but it would take two things. It would take loyalty and sacrifice. And those are the same two elements that I describe as being the most important components of what love is. So-called black people love to talk about how much they love being black. But whenever their feet are put to the fire, they always fall short. They always come up short. You know why? Because like Gordon Gekko said in the film Wall Street, greed is good. In the mindset of the modern day, especially liberal Negro, greed is good. So no matter what they say, you have to pay very close attention to what they do. And in very important moments, especially storylines involving this George Floyd situation, people will tell you what they actually believe as opposed to what they say. And we're going to see over the course of this segment, Shannon Sharpe is going to reveal himself, not only himself, but also the mindset of the average woke Negro. That being that they cannot comprehend an existence without white authority over them. Liberal or woke Negroes, they love making these analogies about the plantation and the house Negro and the field Negro. And the vast majority of liberal or woke Negroes are house niggas. Especially people like Shannon Sharpe, no disrespect to him. But the way in which he lavishes all of this praise on affluent, rich Caucasian men, and the way in which he's going to speak about just the idea of black athletes or so-called black athletes in the NBA having their own league, should show anyone who knows what they're looking at and what they're listening to that Shannon Sharpe is a house nigga. Nothing against the brother. There are different levels to being a house nigga. Some of them are purely delusional. They just want a hug from the so-called white man. That's all they live for. There are other levels to it. To a degree, LeBron James is a house nigga. He's being puppeted by Nike Incorporated. He never speaks unless he's allowed to speak. When it comes to certain topics, he is not going to divulge what he truly thinks or feels because he just doesn't care to, i.e. China. With the Shannon Sharpe, he'll ramble on about the history of blacks in America or so-called blacks in America. But when his foot is held to the fire, he's always going to show that he does not have a ruling class mentality and he does not really want control. Once again, there's a major difference between quote-unquote pro-blacks and liberal blacks. And it's very important that we establish that difference, that disparity. And Kyrie Irving is figuring that out right now. Most quote-unquote real ones quickly understand that those of us who truly want empowerment for ourselves and for our people are very, very few and far between. So anyway, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
has been vocal against the NBA restarting and rallying players to voice concerns. And a report this week said Kyrie even proposed the players start their own league rather than play for NBA owners.
Now, what could possibly be wrong with that, other than Kyrie Irving divulging it to the wrong people and at the wrong time? The proposition of the NBA players starting their own league is something that Kyrie should use great scruples with. You have to understand, most of these guys are not real. Beyond that, in their minds, they have a lot to lose. You always have to watch people like a LeBron James, who are very closely tied to the Caucasian Jewish component of the entertainment industry or the entertainment world. They're going to be the first ones to throw you under the bus, the train, the boat, everything that they can. That's what LeBron James is going to do, because he's not truly for his people. He is a liberal Negro. He is not for his people.
Reportedly left the Nets group chat after that came out, and now new reports say Kyrie, quote, feels attacked and scapegoated. So Shannon, do you...
Well, you should feel attacked, because you are going to get attacked, especially when you're conversing with two-dimensional Negroes. Number one, if you play in the NBA and there's a star, borderline superstar player like a Kyrie Irving on your team, and he broaches the subject of players having their own league, why would you divulge that to anyone else unless you're truly showing that, number one, you're a real quote-unquote sellout or quote-unquote house Negro per se, or maybe you just don't have the understanding of what the impact of you divulging the type of information will have on Kyrie's life and on his reputation. If anything, you ask Kyrie if he's planned it out or how would we go about doing that. And if he shows that he does not have a firm grasp of how to go about creating a league, a sports venue, and the various responsibilities that go along with that, then you have a discussion. And that's it. Because once again, if they decide that they want their own basketball league, their own professional sports association tomorrow, that's going to take at least 4 to 5 years of planning. And they are going to have to commit to probably taking a 90% pay cut, every last one of them. And most of them are not going to be willing to do that. Once again, love is loyalty and sacrifice. They all could live very, very well, making $400,000 a year. As a matter of fact, most of them would probably end up living better making $400,000 a year than they do right now making $40 million. Because off top, they're losing half to taxes. And then on top of that, that $20 million that they're making per year only assists them in enabling people who are never going to earn the right to call themselves mature human beings, because they believe that everything that they get should be paid for by that famous athlete. Then these guys go and marry these females who are just bloodsuckers, and once their career's over, the woman wants to divorce them anyway and take half of that money. That's why a lot of them end up destitute at the end of the day. When if they were just making $400,000 to $500,000 a year, that would teach them how to balance their budgets much better and be more fiscally responsible. Who knows? But either way, brothers, if you wake up tomorrow and you're making $500,000 a year, you're doing extremely well for yourself. All it means, though, is that you're probably going to have to focus on working for the rest of your life. Now, when you sign these 5-year, $250 million deals, you never have to worry about working a day in your life after you retire. At least speculatively, hypothetically speaking. But just getting back to the point, if you're truly for your people, then that's something that you should be willing to do. That's a sacrifice that you should be willing to make, supposedly. But as usual with the so-called black man, the average so-called black man, who's not a three-dimensional thinker, they're mostly all talk, no action.
Have any sympathy for him?
Not really. I believe the conversation should have stayed private. But he did say those things. And my thing is, Skip, how long has he been thinking that blacks should form their own league? Was this in the last 3 weeks, or this is something over the last 3 years?
Well, Shannon, I have a question. For you to ask that question, are you trying to imply that the only reason why Kyrie's talking about forming their own league is because, once again, this conspiracy theory that since he is not allowed in the bubble, now he wants to destroy the entire NBA? Is this how far you guys are willing to go to discredit Kyrie Irving because you believe that he's trying to stop your boo thing from winning a 4th championship? Do you really think that Kyrie Irving got on a conference call with other players or got on, a group text or a group call with his teammates on the Nets to broach the subject of forming an entire new NBA or a quote-unquote black version of professional basketball just to spite LeBron. Is that really what this is about? This is why I tell you, brothers, about being a fan. Because when you're a fan / an idolater, your whole life becomes about that idol. And you start to lose scope of how to evaluate situations. And we see this often with Shannon Sharpe in any storyline or narrative that even attempts or possibly could include LeBron James. He just loses his fucking mind.
See how haphazardly something is rushed together. Now, we've seen other teams try to go up against professional teams that's been established, and we see how that ends.
Right, but the reason why a lot of these other sports leagues fail is because they're competing for the same market. When you talk about the NFL in comparison to the USFL or the XFL, a lot of those leagues did not have proper marketing. A lot of them did not utilize appropriate strategy, and they were not put together comprehensively enough. And once again, besides that, they were competing for the same market. Hypothetically speaking, if so-called black people were loyal to that product, then they would have a market that they could create out of thin air. But once again, so-called black people are not trained to support black business. Our people are trained to be globalists. That's why even in this Black Lesbians Matter movement, they talk about equality and coming together with everyone. They don't talk about autonomy. And even Shannon Sharpe is going to constantly spew these globalist doctrines over the course of this segment. That's why I say no disrespect to the brother, but he's a house nigga, for lack of a better term. He won't understand that because it's not overt. It's subconsciously programmed.
Hard for me to see a scenario where a guy is making $30 million in the NBA, says, you know what, I want my own league, and for the first 5-6 years, I'm willing to make $200,000 a year. Yep. I don't see that happening.
Yeah, it won't happen because people like you won't support it. You'll be the first one to tell those guys, what? You gonna give them $40 million a year for $200,000? Like, I could see if the pay cut was gonna be from $40 million a year to $70,000 or $80,000, like you were gonna be a regular citizen in America. But believe me, brothers, if your pay scale goes down to $400,000 or $500,000 a year and you're still getting major endorsements and you're able to allocate television rights, maybe on BET, or if you're truly business minded, maybe you can get some type of broadcasting rights on YouTube or Facebook or something like that, especially in light of this quote unquote black renaissance where all of these major corporations are willing to invest in you, then you can still make good money. That would not be the problem, but it is going to take a certain amount of sacrifice. When I left corporate America, I mean, shit, I went through it for a long period of time until things got better, but you have to deal with the bad because in order to get to the good, you have to deal with the bad. Shannon Sharpe is once again trying to reinforce this notion that you have to seek after comfort and maintain comfort. Comfort is a great thing, but it's an even better thing after extreme hard work to become your own boss. So it's a matter of so-called black men, what do you want to be? And I have nothing against people who want to work for others, but if you want to work for others, stop telling me about the quote-unquote black plight and the black struggle. Because you're comfortable on your plantation. Even in corporate America, what do we call it colloquially? We call it the plantation, right? Because that's what it is. It's a place where we go to make money, where a lot of times we don't really want to be.
But good luck with that.
Wow, good luck with that. I thought that you were Mr. Wokety Woke, Mr. Pro-Blackety Black. Good luck with that, huh, Shannon?
The thing is, and it also goes to show the leadership style of Kyrie, Skip, that people would leak that.
That's not a bad point, but I also think that after many hours of watching people like yourself and others castigate Kyrie on TV, that can make people look at Kyrie as someone to mock and not trust, as opposed to listen to or ask questions to show that level of respect to. But I understand where you're coming from with that attempt at a point. That Kyrie's leadership style, it certainly leaves a lot to be desired. One of the things that we always have to have, brothers, in life is discretion. It's very important, and we've all caught ourselves in certain situations because of our lack of discretion. It's a part of the path of life, how we learn. But as you get older, you do realize that a lot of things that you think you should not say, especially if you cannot expound on them proficiently enough to convince people that what you're saying is airtight. And as a leader, Kyrie's going to have to learn that before you speak, you have to make sure that your doctrine is relatively airtight, because people are coming for your head.
I don't know what it is, but the facts are what they are.
Yep.
The Boston Celtics played better once Kyrie got hurt than when he was on the roster. The Boston Celtics played better once Kyrie Irving left than they did when he was on the team.
Yep.
Well, let's establish one thing. In Kyrie Irving's first year with the team, they had a great record. Now, they would intermittently sit him when they were playing weak teams, which would explain why the Boston Celtics would beat those weak teams. In Kyrie Irving's first year with the Boston Celtics, they had Jason Tatum as a rookie. He was not fully developed yet. Now, in his third season in the NBA this year, Jason Tatum is starting to fully sprout and develop, and they've been able to replace Kyrie with another player who has been an all-star for quite a few seasons in Kemba Walker. So I'm not quite sure if it's fair to say that Kyrie Irving and how he was on the Boston Celtics is why they had a better season or had a better record without him. I think that in that first year, they were very proficient, and then he had that situation with his grandfather passing away, and that affected how a lot of the dynamics were and the energies were in the locker room. So, I mean, it's difficult to figure out and decipher at this point. But if you're a LeBron James fanboy, you're going to jump on anything. I get it. But at the end of the day, Kyrie has to learn to be quiet. That's the main thing. He has to learn to fall back and understand who his friends are and who his enemies are.
New York Knicks, the Nets played, the Brooklyn Nets played better once Kyrie injury. That's facts. I don't really know it.
Kyrie has not played enough games to determine what his impact is with the Nets. What I do know is that when he was out there, he was cooking.
Other else around that, people automatically assume, Skip, if you're a great player, that makes you a great leader. And that is the furthest thing from the truth.
Agreed.
Some of the best leaders are not the best players. Now, you would like that to happen. You would like for your best player.
The best way to lead is by example. You can talk all the shit you want to talk, but you have to get out there on that basketball floor and be able to play.
To be one of your leaders. But that's not always the case. So, for me, I don't believe the information should have been leaked. Don't leak the information. If you think it, just tell it. Kyrie, man, look, I understand that Black Lives Matter. I think this situation is very important for all of us, and it seems to have impacted you like it has a lot of us. But let's stick to the issue at hand. Now is not the time.
The issue at hand is supposed to be, quote-unquote, black empowerment. The issue at hand, supposedly, is the end to systemic racism. That's what you guys claim. The only way to end systemic racism is not to beg those who have power to lessen their power, but to find a way to gain power for yourself by starting your own enterprises. So there's a major gap in philosophical approach when it comes to someone like Kyrie as opposed to someone like you, Shannon Sharp. Well, you prefer to beg the so-called white man to maybe cut off a bigger piece of crumbs for you to nibble off of, as opposed to Kyrie, who wants to figure out how to bake his own cake. So that's what the difference is. Now, I agree that Kyrie most likely did not think out many of his statements, and that's his major issue. He speaks before thinking a lot of times because he believes that because he's speaking with a quote-unquote pure heart, that other people are going to listen with a pure heart, and that's almost never the case. I mean, let's be for real. About 70% of people in this life that we live in are pieces of shit on 2 feet. They're trying to figure out how to be negative if they can. The other 30%, they're various degrees of meaning well. But it's about 70% of people out here who are just pieces of shit on 2 feet. So you have to watch yourself and what you say to people and why you say it.
It's about forming your own league.
Yep.
Now is about time, okay, how can we maximize the pressure on the NBA, play while asking the NBA to invest in our community, to ask their sponsors and us to invest in the community.
Good Massel. Can you please donate $10 million a year to the hood? And maybe we'll come back and pick that cotton for you. Please, good Massel. These guys are out here making $45 million a year. This is not 1972 Shannon Sharp, where Jerry West and Oscar Robertson are out here making $75,000 a year. These guys are multimillionaires now, making $40 million on the court, $70 million off the court. These guys, a lot of them are making 9 figures a year. We have more than enough money. This notion that the so-called black community is broke is a fucking lie. It's just that the way that we choose to spend our money It's deleterious to our improvement as a nation of people. The embracing of the criminal culture, of the victimization mentality, of the welfare system is the main reason why our people are still in the condition that we're in. The physical chains have been off for over 150 years, Shannon Sharp. The excuses have to end. This stuff about so many bad schools in the black community. You know who makes the schools bad? The students do. They go to these schools, they don't listen, they want to cause disruptions, they want to fight the teachers, they want to fight each other. You know what makes the so-called black community bad? No disrespect, lack of culture. No father in the home. The women are trying to be men. They want all the credit. A lot of the men, because they've never been taught anything, they want to be little boys for their entire life. These are situations that we have to solve first before we go out and beg good master for some monies.
To end what we see as systemic and institutional racism. How do we do that?
Easy. Let's build our own corporations. Brothers, we could start platforms on social media like we could never do 30 years ago. All of us can't do that because all of us are not gifted to that degree. But this false notion or this false sentiment that black people don't have a voice. I mean, we have more of a voice now than we ever had. It's just that niggas don't use it for shit. They get on Facebook and Instasham to talk nonsense. The newest thing now is to just show clips of every arrest that's being made and to have an issue with every fucking arrest. Oh, I can't believe, why is it taking 2 cops to arrest this guy? Meanwhile, the quote-unquote alleged perpetrator or the assailant, the alleged assailant's on the ground fighting to stop from getting handcuffed. If you know that you have not done anything or you claim that you're innocent, why are you going to resist arrest for? All it's going to lead is to you being the victim of police brutality, alleged police brutality. You get to the precinct, you get your lawyer or you get your loved ones or you bail yourself out, and that's that. If the police want to arrest you, they're going to arrest you. So this new thing where, you know, a lot of our people, they want to go on the internet, on social media and get angry about every arrest that's being posted. That's just another sign of our people trying to propagate and perpetuate the empowerment of criminal culture. And that's what we do. Oh, you know, stop snitching. Don't snitch on this person. Don't say anything about what they're doing here. Oh, well, you know, gangs really go back to the Black Panthers. And our people always trying to justify dumb shit. Oh, you know, weed comes from the earth. It's okay to smoke weed all day. Yeah, we're selling crack, but where's the crack coming from? Who brought it into this country? And like, just knock it off.
Let's not focus on starting a league because, Skip, remember, too many things. Just the Christmas list. A child, I want Santa to bring me 50 things. And the parents said, well, wait a minute. What are the 3 or 4 most important things that you want?
The 3 or 4 most important things in the so-called black community have nothing to do with police brutality, Shannon Sharp. And anyone who thinks it does is a fucking fool. Main issue is lack of culture. Our people have no culture, therefore we have no unifying force. On top of that, we don't know who our God is. We don't know our history. That's linked to the cultural issue. Number 4, the so-called black man has been totally disenfranchised. You also have the so-called black woman who follows after these Luciferian doctrines with her nose in the air. Every fume, every aroma, every fragrance that the serpent exhales out of his mouth, the so-called black woman inhales with vigor. These are all supreme issues that pervade the so-called black community way before you get to quote-unquote police brutality.
And let's go from there.
So I want to state up front, I have still huge respect for Kyrie's brain power and his clutch scoring power. He's a gifted young man, both physically and mentally. But to your point, he was not born with that leadership gene that some people have and some don't. He does not have it. And
yeah, Kyrie's not a leader. Kyrie's someone who is more of a quote-unquote loner. He's a thinker. Very few true thinkers are leaders because most thinkers operate outside of regular conventions of comprehension. Kyrie likes to go off into the woods and forests by himself and wonder about ancient civilizations and why things are how they are and things like that. Most people don't want to listen to people like that in regards to following them to battle or into changing society. For the most part, every once in a while you have guys like that who might have that charisma. But Kyrie's not one of them. He does not have the leadership charisma.